Our next speaker will be speaking from the Advanced Communicator Manual Technical Presentation, speech number 2. Charlie has been a member of Toastmasters International over 3 years. He has introduced technology to our club with video evaluation and our original website, both of which have been ably continued by our club members and officers. Charlie will present a short commercial for a seminar he can present to help your business manage and use technology. Speaking for 10 to 12 minutes with a follow-on question and answer period of 3 to 5, Charlie will be speaking on the topic of managerial nightmares and how to help solve them. Help me welcome our next speaker, Charlie.
Good morning, Toastmasters, local guests. On the information superhighway, do you find yourself in overdrive, in hyperdrive, or driving in the slow lane, looking for the next exit? Many of us do, because what's more difficult than not having enough information to run your business? What's worse than that? Not having enough information is exceeded only by having too much information or not being able to manage the information that you have. What I want to do today is take a simple example of buying and selling online to show you how to make a quick snapshot and to acquire, collect, manage, and organize information. Many of us might have purchased things online using eBay or other auction sites. eBay is the most popular. I want to start by saying that we're going to use this as an example because we want to be able to make the most use of what we're trying to do. Now, there are different strategies, and this is not going to be a lesson on how to buy and sell on eBay. I may do another one of those later, but I'm going to use it just as an example here. You might want to be able to analyze how other people buy and sell. Just as a quick introduction, eBay is for buyers, and because it has a hard close. It's called a hard close. When you list something on eBay, it will be online for 7 days to the second. At the end of that, it will end. There's a certain strategy for buying and selling in that. Buyers buy on eBay. You're a seller, you want to avoid eBay because of that. Other auction sites have what's called a soft close. It doesn't end. If it ends in 7 days and somebody bids within the last minute or so, it extends for another 10 minutes, gives more people a chance to raise the price. As a buyer, you don't want that. So the point is that we're going to use that as an example on the handouts that I've shown you here of how to get information, find it on the web, and then to manage it. Okay. Now this is a PowerPoint presentation, and we can always rely on technology to fail when we need it the most. So we're going to pretend that this was all set up as a PowerPoint presentation, and guess what? The power went out. So we go to the backup, which if you're doing a PowerPoint presentation, you should always have a handout to go along with your PowerPoint presentation, but to use when it doesn't work. So we're going to pretend that it doesn't work. Here's your backup. Now, look at the front page, which is the one with the circle. This would have been the first slide, with the squares around the information. When something is sold on eBay, it shows you who bid, when they bid, and how much they bid. This is the information that we're trying to analyze, because we want to look at it. Now, if you look at the left side of the first page, which would be the first slide, here, inside that square is some information that we want to analyze. And when you first look at that, okay, there's some information there, and you can process it, but not as effectively as if you could take that information and use it. Now, what I'm going to show you is how to take this information. When you're looking at something on the screen, if everybody has Windows, or maybe you can do this on a Mac too, and I apologize if you have a Mac. The information in that square can be copied and highlighted, as in the right-hand side. On the right-hand side, it shows that it's been highlighted. Do you know how to do that? It's to click and drag across the information, which highlights it. Then, through Windows, you can copy it into what's called the clipboard. The clipboard is an area in a computer that stores what you copied. You can then paste it into, and that means to put it into another application. So now we've copied the information off of the screen on the right-hand side and highlighted it. And then if we turn the page over, we can now use a program that's called Excel. Now, the item on the first side of the page was, just to give you some basis, was, if any of you remember, from the 60s, 45 RPM records had picture sleeves. That's what this is. This is one of those picture sleeves. This is what's being sold on the first side of the page. On the second side is another item that I'm also not selling, but somebody else did sell, which is a car. It's about yay big, and thousands of parts on it. This is the item. Those are the two items that I'm looking at analyzing. So what I've done is I've looked for somebody else who sold it on eBay, looked at the bidding pattern for one of those items, copied the information, and then pasted it into Microsoft Excel. Because if you look at the first side of the page, the information is in rows and columns. One row for each person who bid on something, showing who it is, when they bid, and how much they bid. Now, as I said, it's not very useful here. The useful function of Microsoft Excel is that it will help you manage those rows and columns on the second side of the page. This will be the third and fourth slides, which can now be sorted, but more importantly, what can be done now is the data in the spreadsheet at the top can be graphed and charted in a more useful way, because information, when most of us look at numbers, we glaze over. There's too much information. It just kind of hits you like a wall of numbers. What Microsoft Access and Excel is the spreadsheet version, allows you to do is take that information and modify it so that you can illustrate it in a visual way, as is the bottom of the second page. This is the same information, but notice the wall of numbers at the top, or even worse on the front, is now shown in a more visual way. Now we can see that the item started at 99 cents. It ended at $699. And we can see the bidding pattern visually. Now, is this information available on this? It's sort of available, but you really have to do mental processing. That's known as cognitive overload. We don't want to process that much information. It's much more useful if we do it in this form. Because we can see here that early on in the bidding, now the identifications of the bidders are hidden. So the thing about the computer is that these people can be known to the person who's selling the item, but nobody else can see. So I can't track Janice's buying patterns. I can't go onto eBay and find out what Janice is buying, because it's hidden with aliases. But we can see that somebody who is a ***P who has purchased 93 things before, that's all I know about it, but he or she bid $679 early on. And then several other bidders tried to outbid that person. Now here is why we're analyzing this, just to make this a little more relevant to you. The reason that we want to analyze this is to find out, if I'm going to try to sell this, I'm going to try to sell something online, how do people think when they're buying? Or if I'm buying, how do I want to think? What happened is this fellow here who bid $679, he bid early enough that other people would bid, look at his bid, and try to outbid him. Because who here has not bought something or sold something on eBay? Okay. Unlike a live auction, if somebody's bidding on something at a live auction, you say, I bid $1,000. Everybody knows what you bid. Okay? Not so on eBay. Because you might ask, $679 is the peak. Right? Why, if somebody bid $679, did the next person bid $400? That doesn't make sense, does it? No. But that's because the $679 was known only to the person who made that bid. Because that bid simply had to outbid the $333. So the person who bid $400 only sold $333 of the $679 bid. That's all very complicated to say, I'm giving you a wall of numbers right now, aren't I? I'm not giving you much more information than you got here. But looking at this graph, we can now see, and it makes a little bit more sense, why 3 more people bid $400, $444, $477, $535, and what did they effectively do? They raised the price for the fellow, the bidder, who bid $679. They wrote it. My point is now that this is all very complicated, and this is not a lesson on how to buy and sell on eBay or on any other site, just to give you an idea of how complicated it is. And this could also be a stock market, possibly, something like that. You could see information on the screen and say, oh, I wish I could see that in a more visual way. Well, highlight the information that you want, select it, copy it into what's known as the clipboard, paste it into another application, more than likely Excel, which is a spreadsheet, which will then let you take that information and then grab it. Very easy with the click of a button. That will be part of the seminar that I hope to give someday. The seminar will show you how to manage it, making this information available to you more meaningful and useful so that you can manage your information more effectively. Thank you for that. I would now like to entertain any questions that you might have. If you have questions on how to use Excel, how to use technology of any kind, or we have a question. Mike.
Yes, Charlie, on your graph, how do you, in Excel, I didn't know Excel had that capability when you changed from the columns in Excel to the graph. Where do you do that?
Okay. In Excel, there is what you would do using the same selection process. The selection process on a computer is typically you click in one corner of the information that you want and you drag diagonally down to the other corner. That highlights the information.
Right.
And in Excel, what's really the most useful feature of Excel is that now there's a little graph button. The button that looks like a graph. You click on that, it then opens the dialog box, asks a few questions about what kind of graph you want, things like that, and then voila, produces a graph. And it is such a meaningful and useful and wonderful aspect of Excel. Yes?
And that graph box is in the toolbar across the top, right?
Yes, it is. Yes,
Thank
it
you.
is.